Chloe wasn't expecting anything unusual that day. She had been dealing with dizzy spells for weeks, but her packed schedule left little time for a proper checkup. Finally, at her mother's insistence, she booked an appointment at a small clinic nearby. The building was nondescript, its faded sign barely visible under the glow of the streetlights. Chloe pushed open the glass door, greeted by a faint smell of antiseptic. The receptionist's desk was empty. The receptionist's desk was empty, though a faint light came from the office down the hall. "Hello," Chloe called, her voice echoing in the quiet hallway. No answer. Feeling awkward, she stepped inside and waited. The dim lighting gave the space an eerie stillness. As minutes passed, she considered leaving, but the thought of explaining to her mother why she skipped the appointment kept her rooted. Finally, the sound of footsteps broke the silence, and a man appeared in the doorway. Dr. Liam Harris looked as though he had just been woken from a restless sleep. His shirt was wrinkled, his tie loosened, and his dark hair was disheveled. Chloe noticed a slight redness in his eyes and an unsteady gait. He squinted at her, his expression unreadable.
"You're here for an appointment?" he asked, his voice hoarse.
"Yes," Chloe replied hesitantly. "I've been feeling dizzy a lot lately. I had a booking at 7 p.m. Liam checked the clock on the wall, muttering something under his breath. It was past 8. "Sorry, the receptionist must have left without updating me. Come in," he said, motioning her toward an examination room. Chloe hesitated, an uneasy feeling creeping in as she followed him. Inside, the room was small but clean, with a faint hum from the overhead fluorescent light. Liam gestured for her to sit on the exam table while he retrieved a clipboard. He seemed distracted, his movements unsteady. "Tell me about the dizziness," he prompted. Chloe explained her symptoms as Liam took notes, occasionally rubbing his temple. She noticed an empty bottle on the counter and the faint smell of alcohol on his breath. Her heart sank. Was he drunk? She wanted to leave but felt trapped by the awkwardness of the situation. "Are you okay, doctor?" she ventured cautiously. Liam looked up sharply, his expression guarded. "I'm fine," he said, too quickly. He glanced at the clipboard, then back at her. "You're Chloe, right?" She nodded, her unease growing. Liam set the clipboard aside and leaned against the counter, sighing deeply. "I'm sorry if I'm not. At my best. It's been a rough week," he admitted, his voice low. Chloe didn't know how to respond. She wasn't used to doctors being so candid, and his vulnerability caught her off guard. "That's okay," she said awkwardly. Liam's gaze lingered on her, his dark eyes filled with something she couldn't quite place. Sadness, regret. She felt a pang of sympathy despite her discomfort. "Sometimes life hits you harder than you expect," he murmured, almost to himself. His words hung in the air, heavy with an unspoken weight. Before Chloe could respond, he pushed off the counter and approached her. The air between them seemed to shift, charged with a strange tension. Liam reached for her wrist, his touch unexpectedly gentle as he checked her pulse. "You're nervous," he observed softly. Chloe nodded, her heart pounding for reasons she couldn't fully explain. "I guess this isn't what I expected from a checkup," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam's lips quirked in a faint, bittersweet smile. "Life's full of surprises," he said, his tone tinged with irony. His hand lingered a moment longer before he stepped back, running a hand through his hair. "Let's check your blood pressure." Chloe obeyed silently, her mind racing. Something about Liam felt off, not just his disheveled appearance or the smell of alcohol, but the way he looked at her, as though he was searching for something he'd lost. It made her uneasy and intrigued all at once. As Liam wrapped the cuff around her arm, his fingers brushed her skin, sending an unexpected shiver down her spine. She glanced at him, and for a brief moment their eyes met. The intensity in his gaze made her stomach flip. She quickly looked away, trying to steady her breathing. The blood pressure monitor beeped, pulling them both back to reality. "It's a little low," Liam said, his voice professional again. "You should drink more water and avoid skipping meals." Chloe nodded, relieved to focus on something normal. "I'll try," she said, offering a faint smile. But Liam didn't step away. Instead, he hesitated, his brow furrowing as though wrestling with some internal conflict. "Chloe," he began, his voice softer now, "you seem kind. I don't know why I'm telling you this, but I've been dealing with something personal. I'm sorry if I'm not the doctor you deserve right now." Chloe stared at him, unsure how to respond. Part of her wanted to leave, but another part felt drawn to his vulnerability. "It's okay," she said finally. "We all have bad days." Liam smiled faintly, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You're more understanding than most," he said, stepping back and rubbing his face. "I should probably let you go." Chloe slid off the exam table, grateful for the chance to leave, but unable to shake the strange tension in the room. As she gathered her things, she noticed Liam watching her again, his expression unreadable. "Take care of yourself, Chloe," he said quietly as she reached the door. "You too?" she replied, her voice tinged with uncertainty. She stepped into the hallway, her heart still racing. As she exited the clinic and stepped into the cool night air, she couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just happened, something that would change her life in ways she couldn't yet understand. Chloe sat in her room, staring blankly at the ceiling. The events of the clinic replayed in her mind like a broken record, each moment sticking to her thoughts like glue. She hadn't told anyone, not her best friend, not her mother, not even herself fully. At least, not in a way that made sense. What had happened back there? Why had she stayed when every instinct screamed for her to leave? Her phone buzzed on the bedside table, snapping her out of the spiral. It was her mom, Maya, checking in from the living room downstairs. "Dinner's ready. Come down before it gets cold." Chloe ignored the message, burying her face in her pillow. She couldn't face her mom's curious eyes, not tonight. Meanwhile, in his dimly lit clinic, Dr. Liam Harris was wrestling with a cocktail of shame, regret, and confusion. His office felt suffocating. The normally sterile and calming space now a chaotic storm of misplaced papers, an empty whiskey bottle, and his own guilty thoughts. He had cleaned the examination room, changed the sheets, and ensured everything was back in its place, but the weight in his chest remained. Liam paced back and forth, rubbing his temples. "What the hell is wrong with me?" he muttered under his breath. His mind flashed to Chloe, her face, her hesitant smile, the way her voice wavered when she said, "Are you okay, doctor?" He had been reckless, stupid.
His hands trembled as he poured himself a glass of water, his stomach churning at the memory of his drunken state.
He sat heavily in his office chair, the guilt digging deeper. She was so young, so innocent. What kind of man crossed a line like that? A broken one, his mind reminded him bitterly. Amanda's betrayal had shattered him, but that didn't justify dragging someone else into his mess. He knew he needed to apologize, to make things right, but how could he even begin? Chloe, on the other hand, was caught in a whirlwind of emotions. Part of her wanted to pretend it had never happened, to erase the memory and move on as if nothing had changed. But the other part of her, the part that replayed every detail, kept her awake at night. She rolled over, staring at her phone.
Should she text him? Say something? Anything? But what could she even say?
The next morning, Chloe forced herself out of bed and into the kitchen, where Maya was bustling around with her usual energy. "Morning, sweetie. You didn't come down last night. Are you feeling okay?" "I'm fine, Mom," Chloe said quickly, avoiding her mother's gaze as she poured herself a cup of coffee. "You've been looking pale lately," Maya said, narrowing her eyes. "Is that doctor? You saw any good? Did he run all the tests?" Chloe nearly dropped her mug at the mention of Liam. He's fine. It was just a routine checkup. Nothing to worry about. Maya didn't look convinced but decided to let it go. All right, but if those dizzy spells come back, we'll find someone else. Maybe Dr. Patel. He's always been reliable. Chloe nodded absently, her thoughts far away. She needed to focus on work, to throw herself into something productive and forget about the mess she'd stumbled into. But as the hours passed and she sat at her desk, her mind kept drifting back to Liam. At the same time, Liam couldn't concentrate either. His secretary, Grace, noticed his unusual behavior. "Dr. Harris, are you okay? You've been off lately?" she said gently, handing him a stack of patient files. "I'm fine," he replied tersely, flipping through the papers without really seeing them. Grace hesitated. "If there's something going on, you can talk to someone. You don't have to go through it alone." Liam paused, glancing up at her. Grace had been with him for years, always professional, always supportive. He sighed heavily, setting the files down. "I made a mistake," he admitted quietly. "A big one?" Grace's brow furrowed, but she didn't press him. "Whatever it is, you'll figure it out. You're a good person, Dr. Harris. People make mistakes." He wanted to believe her, but the doubt gnawed at him. That evening, as Chloe lay in bed, scrolling aimlessly through her phone, a notification popped up. An unknown number. The message was simple. "This is Dr. Harris. I need to talk to you." Her heart skipped a beat. She stared at the screen, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. After a long moment, she typed back, "About what?" The response came quickly. "About what happened. I need to apologize." Chloe's chest tightened. She didn't know if she wanted to hear his apology or if she wanted to forget he existed altogether. But curiosity, or perhaps something deeper, won out. "I'm not sure I want to talk about it," she replied. Liam's next message was longer. "I understand. But I owe you an explanation. Please, just one meeting. After that, if you want me out of your life, I'll stay away." Chloe bit her lip, her mind racing. She thought about how vulnerable he'd seemed, how lost. Against her better judgment, she typed tomorrow. 5 p.m. The cafe near the park. Liam stared at his phone, relief washing over him. He didn't deserve her time, but he was grateful for the chance to make things right. The next day, Chloe arrived at the cafe early, her nerves fraying as she stirred her tea. She had no idea what to expect. When Liam walked in, he looked different, more composed, but the dark circles under his eyes betrayed his sleepless nights. "Chloe," he said softly, sitting across from her. She nodded, her hands tightening around her cup. "You said you wanted to talk." Liam took a deep breath. "I'm sorry. For everything, for being unprofessional, for putting you in that situation. I was drunk, but that's not an excuse. You deserved better, and I failed you." Chloe didn't respond immediately. She studied him, searching for any hint of insincerity, but his expression was open, raw. "Why were you drinking?" she asked finally. Liam hesitated, then decided to tell her the truth. "I was heartbroken. My fiancée. She cheated on me. I found out the night before, and Chloe's chest tightened at his words. She wanted to stay angry, but the pain in his voice made it difficult. "That doesn't make it okay," she said, her voice firm, but not unkind. "I know," Liam said quickly. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I regret what happened. I regret putting you in that position." Chloe looked down at her tea, her emotions swirling. Part of her wanted to walk away, to leave the mess behind. But another part of her, the part that had seen the sadness in his eyes, wanted to understand. "Don't let it happen again," she said finally, standing up. "To anyone." Liam nodded, his shoulders slumping in relief. "Thank you." he said softly. Chloe walked out of the cafe, her heart feeling lighter but still conflicted. She didn't know what the future held, but for now she was ready to move forward. Liam watched her leave, silently vowing to be a better man. Chloe thought she could leave everything behind after her meeting with Dr. Liam Harris. She told herself it was over, that whatever had happened in that clinic was now firmly in the past. But as much as she tried to bury her feelings and push the memory away, it kept clawing back. She spent her days throwing herself into work at her father's company, hoping the numbers, spreadsheets, and constant meetings would drown out her restless thoughts. It didn't work. Liam, too, tried to focus on his work. He returned to his clinic, taking extra care to be professional and present with every patient. He wanted to forget the way Chloe had looked at him during their meeting at the cafe, the way her gaze had flickered between disappointment and understanding. He could still hear her words echoing in his mind. Don't let it happen again. The guilt was suffocating, but buried beneath it was something even more dangerous. The lingering memory of her. A week later, Chloe's father, Mark, called her into his office. "We're having dinner tonight with the Westcotts," he said without looking up from the stack of papers on his desk. "The Westcotts?" Chloe repeated, confused. "Who are they?" "Old friends of your mother and me," Mark replied. "Their son has recently moved back to town. It's been years since we've caught up, and your mom thought it would be nice to have them over." Chloe sighed. "Do I have to be there? I've got a lot of work to do and—" "Yes," Mark interrupted firmly. "This is non-negotiable, Chloe. Be home by 7 and dress appropriately. First impressions matter." She groaned but knew better than to argue. Her father could be relentless when it came to family obligations. "Fine," she muttered, leaving his office. By the time evening rolled around, Chloe had barely managed to drag herself out of the office and into a semi-formal dress. She arrived home to find her mother bustling around the kitchen and her father checking the wine selection. The Westcotts hadn't arrived yet, so she retreated to the living room, scrolling through her phone to pass the time. When the doorbell finally rang, Chloe stayed seated, letting her parents handle the greetings. She wasn't in the mood for small talk. It wasn't until she heard her father say, "Chloe, come meet our guests," that she reluctantly got up and made her way to the foyer. The moment her eyes landed on the man standing next to the Westcotts, her heart stopped. For a split second, neither of them spoke. Liam's face betrayed a flicker of shock before he quickly composed himself. Chloe, however, couldn't mask her disbelief. "This is our son, Liam," Mrs. Westcott said proudly, oblivious to the tension in the air. "He's a doctor. Just opened his own clinic not too far from here." Chloe forced a polite smile, her mind racing. Why didn't he tell me his parents were family friends? She thought, struggling to keep her composure. "And this is our daughter, Chloe," Mark said, patting her shoulder. "She's been doing a fantastic job managing things at the company." "Nice to meet you," Liam said, extending a hand. His voice was calm, but Chloe could see the tension in his jaw. "Likewise," she replied stiffly, shaking his hand. His touch sent an unwelcome jolt up her arm, and she quickly pulled away. As the group moved to the dining room, Chloe found herself seated directly across from Liam. Her parents and the Westcotts carried the conversation, but she barely heard a word. Her focus was entirely on Liam, who seemed equally distracted. Every now and then, his gaze would flick to hers, and she would quickly look away. "Chloe, dear," her mother said suddenly, snapping her out of her thoughts. "Liam mentioned he's a doctor. Maybe he could help with those dizzy spells you've been having." Chloe's stomach twisted. "I already have a doctor, Mom," she said quickly, forcing a smile. "Oh, nonsense," Mrs. Westcott interjected. "Liam is wonderful. I'm sure he could help." "It's fine," Chloe insisted, her voice sharper than she intended. "I'm managing." Her father raised an eyebrow but didn't press the issue. Liam, however, looked at her with a mixture of amusement and irritation, as if her refusal was some kind of challenge. As the evening wore on, Chloe excused herself under the pretense of needing to check her phone. She stepped out onto the patio, the cool night air a welcome relief from the suffocating tension inside.
She leaned against the railing, taking deep breaths to steady herself.
"You're avoiding me," Liam's voice came from behind her. She stiffened, but didn't turn around.
"What do you want, Dr. Harris?"
"To talk," he said simply. He moved closer, his tone dropping to something softer. "I didn't know our parents were friends. If I had, I would have told you." "Does it matter?" Chloe snapped, finally turning to face him. "This doesn't change anything." "Doesn't it?" Liam asked, his dark eyes locking onto hers. "Chloe, I meant what I said at the cafe. I want to make things right." She crossed her arms, her defenses rising. "You can't. What's done is done. Let it go." Liam took a step closer, his voice firm but not unkind. "I can't let it go. Not when." He trailed off, as if afraid to say the words. "Not when what?" Chloe challenged, her voice trembling.
He hesitated, then sighed. "Not when I can't stop thinking about you."
Her breath hitched, and for a moment she didn't know how to respond. The vulnerability in his voice was disarming, and it chipped away at the wall she'd built around herself. But she couldn't let him in. "You don't know me," she said quietly. "Not really. And I don't know you. Whatever happened was a mistake, Liam. We both know that." "Maybe it was," he admitted, his gaze unwavering. "But I don't regret meeting you." Chloe's heart ached at his words, but she forced herself to stay strong. "This isn't going to work," she said, stepping back. "We're too different. Our worlds don't fit." Liam opened his mouth to argue, but before he could, her father called from inside. "Chloe, are you out there? The Westcotts are leaving?" "I have to go," she said quickly, brushing past him. Liam watched her disappear inside, frustration and longing warring within him. He didn't know how, but he wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. As the Westcotts prepared to leave, Liam shook Mark's hand and exchanged polite goodbyes with Maya. But when he glanced at Chloe, she avoided his gaze entirely. It felt like a door slamming shut between them, and it left him reeling. Chloe, on the other hand, felt relief mixed with sadness as the Westcotts' car pulled away. She thought she could finally breathe again, but deep down, she knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Chloe tried to move on from the dinner with Liam and his family, but the encounter had left her shaken. Every time she tried to concentrate at work, her mind would drift back to his words on the patio. "I can't stop thinking about you." It was infuriating. She didn't want to think about him, but somehow he was always there. In her mind, in her mind, in her memories, and now uncomfortably close to her life. A few days later, Chloe was in her office, drowning in reports, when her co-worker and friend, Emily, peeked in. "Chloe, you okay? You've been staring at that spreadsheet for 20 minutes. "I'm fine," Chloe muttered, though her tight grip on her pen said otherwise. Emily stepped in, closing the door behind her.
"Fine doesn't look like this,"
she said, gesturing to Chloe's slouched posture.
"What's going on?"
Chloe sighed, leaning back in her chair. She debated whether to say anything, but Emily had always been her confidant. "It's complicated." Emily raised an eyebrow. "Complicated as in work stuff, or complicated as in guy stuff?" Chloe hesitated. "Both." Emily grinned knowingly. "All right, spill. Who's the guy?" Chloe hesitated again, but the words tumbled out before she could stop them. "His name's Liam. He's a doctor. We met under unusual circumstances, and now our parents are friends. I keep running into him, and it's—" Emily's smile faded as she saw the tension in Chloe's face. "Do you like him?" That's the problem, Chloe admitted. I don't know. He's complicated, and he's trying to make amends for something, but I don't think I can forgive him. Emily studied her for a moment. You're never going to get closure if you keep avoiding him. Talk to him. Confront him. Whatever it is, you need to settle it. Chloe groaned. I don't even know what I'd say. Emily shrugged. Start with the truth. That usually works. Later that afternoon, Chloe found herself pacing in her office, debating whether to follow Emily's advice. Her phone buzzed, and her heart sank when she saw Liam's name on the screen. He'd texted her, "Can we talk, please?" Her fingers hovered over the keyboard before she replied, "Fine, meet me at the park at 6. At 6:00 p.m., Chloe stood near a bench in the park, her arms crossed against the cool breeze. She saw Liam approaching, his hands in his pockets, his expression serious. He stopped a few feet away, waiting for her to speak first. "What do you want, Liam?" Chloe asked, her tone sharp. "I want to make things right," he said immediately. "I know I've said it before, but I mean it. I can't stand the thought of you hating me." Chloe let out a bitter laugh. "You're not in a position to ask for forgiveness, Liam. What happened was a mistake, and we both know it." "It was a mistake," Liam agreed, his voice low. "But I don't regret meeting you, Chloe, and I don't think you do either." She glared at him. "You don't know what I feel." "Then tell me," Liam shot back. "Tell me you don't feel anything, and I'll leave you alone." Chloe opened her mouth, ready to deny everything, but the words wouldn't come. Her silence was enough for Liam. "I'm not trying to make excuses," he continued, stepping closer. "What happened that night? I'll regret it for the rest of my life. But I've thought about you every day since, and I don't think I can just walk away." Chloe's defenses began to crack. "Liam, you don't even know me." "Then let me get to know you," he said, his voice almost pleading. She stared at him, her emotions warring within her. "You hurt me, Liam. Do you understand that? I've spent weeks trying to figure out what that night meant, and all it's done is mess with my head." "I know," he said softly, "and I'm sorry for putting you through that. But I want to do better. For you, for us." "Us," Chloe repeated, her tone incredulous. "There is no us, Liam." "There could be," he said, his gaze steady, "if you'd let me try." Chloe took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. "And what if I can't trust you? What if I can't forget what happened?" "Then I'll spend as long as it takes earning your trust," Liam said. "I'm not going to give up on you, Chloe. Not until you tell me to." She wanted to scream at him, to tell him to leave her alone, but instead she said, "I don't know if I can forgive you, Liam, but I'll give you one chance. Just one." Relief washed over his face, and he nodded. The tension between them eased slightly, but Chloe's mind was still spinning. She didn't know if she was making the right decision, but for now, she was willing to see where this road would lead. As they parted ways, Liam's words lingered in her mind. "I'm not gonna give up on you." Chloe didn't know whether to feel flattered or terrified. But one thing was clear. This was far from over. Amanda Holmes had always been a woman who refused to accept defeat. When she'd been with Liam, she was used to being the center of his world, admired for her charm and beauty, but her betrayal, her affair with another man, had ended all of that. She had expected Liam to forgive her eventually, to come crawling back like he always had after their arguments. Instead, he had cut ties with her completely, and now, hearing whispers about him being involved with someone new, Amanda's fury boiled over. Sitting in a dimly lit bar with her closest friend, Amanda slammed her glass down on the table. "He's seeing someone else," she hissed.
Can you believe that, after everything we've been through?
Her friend Melanie leaned back with a smirk. Honestly, Amanda, you shouldn't be surprised. You cheated on him. It was a mistake, Amanda snapped. He knows that. He's being dramatic. Liam and I are meant to be together. No one else is going to have him. Melanie shrugged. Then why don't you do something about it? If he's moved on, you just need to make sure his new fling doesn't last. Amanda's eyes gleamed with malicious intent. You're right. If she thinks she can take him from me, she's dead wrong. Meanwhile, Chloe was slowly beginning to let her guard down with Liam. After their intense conversation in the park, she'd reluctantly agreed to meet him a few more times. Each time he showed her a different side of himself. Thoughtful, patient, and determined to prove his sincerity. Though she still carried doubts, she couldn't deny the growing connection between them. But things were about to take a dark turn. It started with a phone call one morning as Chloe sat in her office, reviewing reports. She answered without looking at the caller ID, expecting her assistant. Instead, a low, unfamiliar voice said, "Stay away from Liam, or you'll regret it." Chloe froze, her blood running cold. "Who is this?" she demanded, her voice trembling. The caller laughed. "Just a friend looking out for you. Take the warning seriously." The line went dead, leaving Chloe gripping her phone, her heart racing. She immediately thought of Amanda. Liam had mentioned her once, briefly, but Chloe hadn't given her much thought. Now, she realized, she might be dealing with someone unhinged. That evening, Chloe told Liam about the call. His face darkened with anger as she recounted the conversation. "It has to be Amanda," he said, his tone firm. "No one else would do this." "Are you sure?" Chloe asked. "It could be anyone who knows you?" "It's her," Liam said, his jaw tightening. "She's been unpredictable." How? Chloe pressed, a sinking feeling settling in her stomach. "She's stubborn, manipulative, and she doesn't take rejection well," Liam admitted. "But I never thought she'd stoop to harassing you." Chloe crossed her arms, frustration bubbling to the surface.
Well, she is. So what are you going to do about it?
"I'll handle it," Liam said firmly. "I'll confront her and make it clear that she needs to leave us alone." Chloe wasn't convinced, but she nodded. She wanted to believe he could fix this, though a part of her wasn't so sure. The next day, Amanda escalated her efforts. Chloe left work late, her mind preoccupied with deadlines and her lingering unease about the phone call. As she walked to her car in the dimly lit parking lot, she heard footsteps behind her. She quickened her pace, but the sound followed her, closer and closer. Before she could react, two masked women grabbed her from behind. One yanked her hair while the other scratched at her arms. Chloe struggled, panic surging through her, but she couldn't break free. "Stay away from him," one of them hissed, her voice muffled by the mask. Just as Chloe thought she might collapse from fear, a security guard appeared, yelling and rushing toward them. The attackers fled into the night, leaving Chloe shaken and bruised. The guard helped her to her feet, his face pale. "Are you okay, miss?" "What do you think?" Chloe snapped, her voice trembling. She was angry. At herself for being caught off guard. At Amanda for orchestrating this, and at Liam for dragging her into this mess. When she got home, her father noticed the scratches on her arms immediately. "What happened to you?" Mark demanded, his tone sharp. "I was attacked," Chloe admitted, her voice tight with emotion. "Two women in masks. They didn't take anything. They just wanted to scare me." Mark's expression darkened. "Who would do this?
Do you have enemies?
"No," Chloe said quickly. "It's complicated." Mark wasn't satisfied with her vague answer. Complicated. "Chloe, this isn't something you can brush off. I'm calling the police." "Dad, wait," Chloe began, but it was too late. Mark was already on the phone, reporting the incident. Minutes later, Liam arrived at the house, his face etched with worry. "Chloe," he said, rushing to her side. "Are you okay?" She glared at him. "Do I look okay, Liam?" Your ex is out of control, and now I'm the one paying the price. I'm sorry, Liam said, his voice filled with regret. This is my fault. I should have stopped her sooner. Chloe crossed her arms, her anger simmering. You think? She's not just sending threats anymore, Liam. She's sending people to attack me. I'll handle it, Liam promised, his tone resolute. I'll go to the police, and I'll make sure she pays for this. You'd better, Mark said, stepping into the room. Liam nodded, his expression serious. I understand, sir. I won't let this happen again. The following day, Liam went to Amanda's apartment, furious and determined to put an end to her harassment. She opened the door with a smug smile, as though she'd been expecting him. Well, if it isn't my favorite doctor, Amanda said, leaning against the doorframe. What brings you here? You know exactly why I'm here, Liam said, his voice cold. Leave Chloe alone, Amanda. This has gone too far. Amanda laughed, a sharp, mocking sound. Oh, come on, Liam. You think you're in love with her. She's just a distraction. You and I both know you belong with me. Liam clenched his fists, his patience wearing thin. You don't get to decide that. You lost that right when you cheated on me. Her smile faltered for a moment, but she quickly recovered. You'll come back to me eventually. You always do. Not this time, Liam said firmly. If you come near Chloe again, I'll make sure you regret it. The police already know about your threats. Amanda's eyes narrowed. You wouldn't dare. Try me, Liam said, his voice low and dangerous. He turned and walked away, leaving Amanda seething in the doorway. Back at home, Chloe was still shaken from the attack, but a part of her felt relieved knowing Liam was taking action. She didn't fully trust him yet, but she wanted to believe he was sincere. As she sat in her room, staring out the window, her phone buzzed with a message from Liam. I confronted her. She knows what'll happen if she tries anything again. I'm not letting her hurt you anymore. Chloe stared at the message, her emotions a tangled mess. She wanted to believe him, but she couldn't shake the feeling that Amanda wasn't done yet. And deep down, she knew this wasn't over. Chloe thought things would calm down after Liam confronted Amanda, but life had other plans. For a brief moment, she allowed herself to believe that the chaos was behind her. Liam had assured her that Amanda wouldn't dare come near her again, and Chloe wanted to trust him.
She wanted to believe that this nightmare was over.
But Amanda wasn't the type to retreat. She was the type to strike where it hurt the most. It started with a package delivered to Chloe's office, left on her desk without a sender's name. When she opened it, her heart sank. Inside was a series of photographs, grainy but clear enough to recognize the subjects. Liam and Amanda, in what appeared to be an intimate setting, lying on a bed together, Amanda's arm draped possessively over Liam's chest, her smug smile aimed directly at the camera. The message was clear. He's still mine. Chloe's hands shook as she sifted through the photos, bile rising in her throat. Was this recent? Had Liam lied to her? She wanted to scream, to cry, to throw the photos across the room. Instead, she shoved them back into the envelope and stared blankly at her desk, her mind spiraling into doubt and anger. That evening, Liam called her as usual, his voice warm and casual. Hey, how was your day? He asked, oblivious to the storm brewing on her end. Chloe didn't respond at first, gripping her phone tightly. I need to ask you something, she said finally, her voice cold. Of course, Liam replied, his tone shifting to concern. What's wrong? Did you see Amanda recently? Chloe demanded. There was a pause on the other end. Yes, Liam admitted. I told you. I confronted her to make sure she left you alone. And did you end up in bed with her? Chloe spat, unable to keep the bitterness from her voice. What? Liam sounded stunned. No. Why would you even ask that? Chloe clenched her jaw. Because I got photos today, Liam. That's impossible, Liam said, his voice rising. She's lying, Chloe. I would never… Then explain the photos, Chloe snapped. Explain why she's in bed with you, smiling like she's won. Liam's breath hitched. I don't know how she did it, but it's not true. Chloe, you have to believe me. I don't know if I can, Chloe said, her voice breaking. You promised me she was out of our lives, but she's still here, still trying to ruin everything. Liam was silent for a moment. Meet me tomorrow, he said finally. Please, I'll explain everything. The next day, Chloe agreed to meet Liam at his clinic, though her heart was heavy with mistrust. When she arrived, he was already waiting for her, a folder of papers spread out on his desk. Chloe, he said, standing as she entered, thank you for coming. Just get to the point, she said, crossing her arms. Liam gestured to the papers. These are messages Amanda sent me after we broke up. She's been trying to manipulate me for months, using anything she can to get my attention. I never responded to her, Chloe. I swear. I don't know how she got those photos, but they're fake. She's desperate to make you believe I'm untrustworthy. Chloe hesitated, glancing at the messages. They were filled with pleas, threats, and declarations of love, all from Amanda. Liam's responses were non-existent. He hadn't engaged with her at all. She's good at making things look real, Liam continued. But I swear on everything, Chloe. I've only ever wanted to be with you. I'd never betray you. Chloe's anger began to soften, but the doubt lingered. Why didn't you tell me about her before? She asked quietly. Why didn't you warn me how far she'd go? I thought I could handle it, Liam admitted, running a hand through his hair. I thought if I ignored her, she'd eventually stop. I didn't realize she'd go after you. Chloe exhaled slowly, her shoulders slumping. This is too much, Liam. I'll protect you, Liam said firmly. I'll go to the police again. I'll file a restraining order. Whatever it takes to keep her away, I'll do it. Chloe looked at him, searching his face for any hint of deceit. All she saw was determination and sincerity. Against her better judgment, she nodded. Okay, but this is your last chance, Liam. If she does anything else, anything, I'm done. I understand, Liam said, relief washing over him. I won't let you down. True to his word, Liam went to the police that same day, filing a formal complaint against Amanda and providing the photos as evidence. The officers assured him they would investigate, but Liam knew it wouldn't be easy. Amanda was cunning, and she wouldn't go down without a fight. Chloe tried to focus on work, but the stress weighed on her. She jumped at every unexpected sound and kept checking over her shoulder, afraid Amanda might be lurking nearby. Her father noticed her unease and confronted her one evening. Chloe, what's going on? Mark asked, his tone stern but concerned. It's personal, Chloe said hesitantly. I'm handling it. Mark frowned. If this has anything to do with that doctor, you'd better tell me now. Chloe shook her head. It's not Liam. He's helping me deal with something. Mark's expression softened slightly. If you need my help, just say the word. Thanks, Dad, Chloe murmured, grateful for his support. A week later, Amanda made her move. Despite the restraining order, she showed up at Chloe's workplace, causing a scene in the lobby. Chloe was in a meeting when her assistant burst in, looking panicked. There's a woman downstairs demanding to see you, the assistant said. She's causing a lot of trouble. Chloe's stomach sank. What does she look like? Tall, blonde, wearing sunglasses, the assistant said. She says her name is Amanda. Chloe's blood ran cold. Call security, she said immediately. Have her removed. But by the time security arrived, Amanda was already gone, leaving behind a chilling message scrawled on a piece of paper. This isn't over. When Chloe told Liam about the incident, his frustration boiled over. She's out of control, he said. pacing his living room. I'm going to find her and make her stop. Liam, don't, Chloe said, fear creeping into her voice. You don't know what she's capable of. I don't care, Liam said, his jaw set. She's hurt you for the last time. That night, Liam tracked Amanda to a bar she frequented. She was sitting in a corner booth, laughing with a group of friends. When she saw Liam, her smile widened, as if she'd been expecting him. Liam, she said sweetly, what a surprise. This ends now, Liam said, his voice low and dangerous. You're done interfering in my life. You're done harassing Chloe. Amanda leaned back, unfazed. Or what? Or I'll make sure you're held accountable for everything you've done, Liam said. I've filed complaints. I've given the police everything they need. You won't get away with this. Amanda's smile faltered, but she quickly masked it with a laugh. Liam didn't stay to argue. He left the bar knowing he'd done everything he could. Now it was up to the authorities, and fate, to stop Amanda for good. But as he walked away, he couldn't shake the feeling that the storm was far from over. Chloe sat in her room, staring at the letter she'd been drafting for the police about Amanda's harassment. She was exhausted, not just physically but emotionally. Every time she thought about the chaos of the past few weeks, a knot tightened in her stomach. Amanda's unrelenting interference had turned her life into a constant state of anxiety, and even though Liam had done everything to shield her, the scars of the ordeal lingered. But there was something else, something she hadn't told anyone yet. Chloe glanced down at the pregnancy test sitting on her bedside table, its result glaring back at her. Positive. She had found out 3 days ago but hadn't been able to process it, let alone tell Liam.
She didn't even know how to begin.
The sound of her phone buzzing jolted her out of her thoughts. It was Liam. She hesitated for a moment before answering. Hey, she said softly, trying to keep her voice steady. Hey, Liam replied, his tone cautious. How are you holding up? I'm fine, she lied, her hand unconsciously resting on her stomach.
What about you?
I've been better, he admitted. The police are moving forward with the case against Amanda. They said they'll keep an eye on her, but it's going to take time. Time, Chloe echoed, her voice hollow. That's all we seem to need lately. There was a pause on the other end of the line before Liam spoke again. Chloe, I miss you. I know things have been hard, but I need to see you. Please. Chloe closed her eyes, weighing her options. She wanted to tell him about the baby, but the thought of adding another layer of complication to their already tangled relationship terrified her. Still, she couldn't avoid him forever. All right, she said finally. Come over tomorrow. The next day, Liam arrived at Chloe's house, carrying a bouquet of sunflowers, her favorite. When she opened the door, he gave her a tentative smile. I thought these might brighten your day. Chloe managed a small smile in return. Thanks. They sat on the couch, an awkward silence settling between them. Liam broke it first. I've been thinking about everything, he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. About us, about Amanda, about the future. Chloe's heart raced at the mention of the future, but she stayed quiet, letting him continue. I know I've brought a lot of chaos into your life, Liam said, meeting her gaze. And I hate that you've been dragged into my mess. But Chloe, I want you to know that I'm serious about you. I want you to know that I'm serious about you. I want to be with you no matter what it takes. Chloe looked down at her hands, her mind swirling. She knew he was being sincere, but the weight of her secret felt crushing. Liam, there's something I need to tell you, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. What is it? He asked, leaning closer, concern etched across his face. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling. I'm pregnant. Liam's eyes widened, and for a moment, he was speechless. You're... Chloe nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. I wasn't sure how to tell you. I didn't even know how I felt about it myself. But it's true. Liam sat back, running a hand through his hair. He looked overwhelmed, but not unhappy. Slowly, a smile spread across his face. We're having a baby, he said softly, almost to himself. Then he looked at her, his expression resolute. Chloe, this changes everything. I'm going to take care of you and the baby. I promise. Chloe's heart ached at the sincerity in his voice. Liam, this isn't just about you taking responsibility. I need to know that you're here because you want to be, not because you feel obligated. He reached for her hand, holding it firmly. I'm here because I love you, Chloe. I've loved you since the day you walked into my clinic. This baby is just another reason for me to fight for us. Tears spilled down her cheeks, and she let out a shaky laugh.
You're really good at saying the right things. You know that.
He smiled. It's not just words. I mean it. As the weeks passed, the tension surrounding Amanda began to fade. The police had issued a restraining order, and Amanda seemed to finally back off. Chloe and Liam began focusing on their relationship, preparing for the baby and the life they were about to build together. Liam surprised her one evening by taking her to the park where they'd had their first serious conversation. As they walked along the path, he suddenly stopped and turned to face her. Chloe, he said, taking her hands in his. I know this might feel fast, but I can't imagine my life without you. I don't want to just be your partner. I want to just be your partner. I want to be your husband. Chloe's breath caught as he dropped to one knee, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Will you marry me? Tears filled her eyes as she nodded. Yes, she said, her voice trembling with emotion. Yes, I'll marry you. Liam slipped the ring onto her finger and stood, pulling her into his arms. For the first time in weeks, Chloe felt a sense of peace, a sense that everything might just work out after all. Their wedding was small and intimate, held in Chloe's parents' garden. Surrounded by family and close friends, they exchanged vows under a canopy of twinkling lights. As Liam slipped the wedding band onto Chloe's finger, he whispered, I promise to love you and our child with everything I have. Chloe smiled through her tears, and I promise to stand by you no matter what. The moment the officiant declared them husband and wife, Liam pulled Chloe into a kiss, their guests erupting into cheers and applause. Months later, their baby, a healthy, beautiful girl, was born. As Liam cradled their daughter in his arms for the first time, his eyes filled with tears. She's perfect, he whispered. Chloe watched them, her heart swelling with love. She's got your eyes, she said, smiling. And your determination, Liam replied, brushing a kiss on their daughter's forehead. Their lives weren't perfect. There were still challenges to face, adjustments to make, but they faced them together. Chloe continued working at her father's company, while Liam balanced his medical practice with being a devoted husband and father. One evening, as they sat on the couch with their baby sleeping in Chloe's arms, Liam leaned over and kissed her temple. Thank you, he said softly. For what? Chloe asked, glancing at him. For giving me a second chance, he said, for believing in us. Chloe smiled, her heart full. You earned it. As they sat there, their little family complete, Chloe realized she no longer felt weighed down by the past, the doubts, the fears, the pain. They were still there, but they didn't define her anymore. Liam had proven his love, not just with words but with actions, and she had learned to trust again. In the end, their story wasn't just about overcoming obstacles. It was about finding love and hope in the most unexpected places. Together, they had created something beautiful, something worth fighting for. And that, Chloe thought, was the true beginning of their happily ever after. Thank you for staying until the end of this story. Your time and attention mean so much to us. Chloe and Liam's journey reminds us of an important life lesson. Trust is fragile but worth rebuilding when love and sincerity are present. Life will throw challenges our way, and sometimes it's the people we least expect who help us navigate through them. This story also shows us the power of resilience, how we can move beyond mistakes and hardships to find joy, purpose, and a brighter future. Now we'd love to hear from you. Where are you watching this from? Let us know in the comments below. Your thoughts and experiences matter to us. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and share it with others who might need a little inspiration or a reminder that second chances are possible. And most importantly, hit that subscribe button to join our growing community. By subscribing, you'll never miss out on our latest stories, packed with drama, love, and life lessons. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you in the next video.